Hello, and welcome to Firehouse Table Talks podcast. I'm your host, Jeremy Toma. I'm a U.S. Navy veteran, and I'm also a career firefighter and paramedic with over 20 years on the job. On this podcast, the views and opinions expressed are those of the participants, and they in no way reflect the views or opinions of our employers. This podcast serves to give a unique peek behind the curtain into the lives of our nation's first responders, military veterans, and their families. These are their stories, raw and uncensored. Now, pour yourself a cup of coffee, pull up a chair, and join us at the table. Thanks for tuning in. Now, on to our show.
We can go home to the warrior
All right, today we have Craig Foreman joining us.
Hello.
In the interest of full disclosure, this episode was recorded about a week ago, and the audio was all messed up. So Craig was gracious enough to come back over and bribed him with a little bourbon to sit back down and rehash his story all over again. So thanks for joining us, me and my 4 listeners, maybe. This one's a little different than we have in the past. Instead of being a remote recording, Craig chose to come over to the house, so we're sitting in the dining room. If you hear the dogs running around, they may come into the camera shot and say hi to Craig while we're here. So those are our special guests. So Craig, tell us a little bit about yourself as far as, are you nicknamed the Bearded Ranger?
Yeah, that just kind of happened on the boat. But, well, the Ranger part comes from 1990. I joined the Army active duty and was in 1st Ranger Battalion for about 4 years. And then I got out for a little while, and I had a job at the post office that I hated, so I went back in the reserves. And that's about when 9/11 kicked off. Did some deployments with the reserves. Then they let me out of the reserves because I wanted to go do private contracting work with Blackwater for about 5 years.
So you were like me. Our active duty was pre 9/11, kind of slow, no wartime.
Right, yeah.
And then, of course, right after both of us got out, everything kicks off. So Army Reserves, and then you went private contracting.
Yeah, I did that for, like I said, probably about 5 years. And then I left that, and I don't know, I climbed cell towers for a few years. Did a couple other things, worked at Honda. But now I'm medically retired from the Army. And I just do things that are interesting now.
Yeah, living life in Central Ohio, but not for much longer, right? You're moving out to Colorado?
Yeah. My youngest has 1 more year in high school. And then once he finishes that, we'll pack it up and move to the mountains.
Jump ship and head west. Not a bad idea.
Yeah. Well, I've lived in Wyoming before when I was younger. My grandfather's ranch is out there. So I know what the weather's like out there in the climate.
Well, it's going to be a little cooler, but
yeah,
scenery's probably a whole lot better than Central Ohio.
If you like mountains, I mean,
never been to Colorado. I flew over it. The only place in Colorado, I flew into Denver Airport on the way out to my ship the very first time, and that was it. I mean, it was the old Denver Airport too, so it was like right at the base of the mountains. So as soon as you took off going west, you went straight vertical to clear the mountains. Yeah,
it's like leaving Kabul in Afghanistan. There's so many mountains they have to take off. You have to circle in. It's like a big bowl. Circle in and circle out.
So you did private contracting. Where all did that take you?
I started in Iraq, and then since I was deployed to Afghanistan with the reserves, I volunteered to go over there when they won the contract from DynCorp for the KPD, the Karzai Protective Detail. But I was just on the ambassador's team. And I actually drove the limo for many. I probably drove like 4 different ambassadors in my time there.
Those things are pretty heavy duty, right? Pretty thick armor.
Yeah. We originally had those the big Suburbans, right? But those kind of stood out. We were like the only ones with the big Suburban, so you know exactly what's going. So we swapped to what all the other diplomats were using were just like the little up armored like Toyota whatever SUV they had,
RAV4s or whatever they had there.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly. I don't remember what they were.
So how many years were you in the private contracting business?
About 5. I probably took a year off in the middle there somewhere.
Came home, got bored.
Yeah, I came home and I was Donald Trump Jr. for a while because I had a pocket full of money, but it didn't keep coming in, so I had to go back.
Yeah, private contracting does that. I was offered a gig as a private medic. This was early on. I was actually on a mission trip in Belize, and there were some contractors staying at the same resort we were. And every night I saw the same guy at the bar, and he was on his iPad FaceTiming at home. And I think one night I was there, and I had my Columbus Fire shirt on, and he came over, and he's like, "Hey, you firefighter?" I said, "Yeah." "Are you a medic?" "Yeah." He slid me his card. He's like, "We need medics." I was like, "Well, that sounds all okay, and the money's good, but..."
That was always in demand.
Yeah. I don't think that the wife would be too happy with me just up and going.
Well, initially they're not happy with that, but then once they start getting that big bank account, that big paycheck rolling in, they change their tune a little bit.
She was with me all through the military too, so it's not like it's something new, but except now this time we've got kids.
Yeah.
So it's probably a little different, but yeah, I chose not to do that. And, if I was single, I would have ate it up. And
yeah. Or if you didn't have such a great marriage.
That too. I told her, it was because of her I got out of the Navy and came back to Central Ohio. And if it wasn't for that, God knows where I would have never come back here. I don't know where I'd be right now.
Yeah, for sure. I think sometimes I think people stay together because of the deployments, because they don't have to be together and look at each other.
Well, yeah, we kind of talked about that last week in the limited edition missing recording. Was some marriages seem to work better when the spouses are apart.
Yeah, I think they have kind of a don't ask, don't tell policy when they're apart from each other.
Yeah, well, it's
hey, whatever you do, that's your business.
You make it work. So Craig and I met through Save A Warrior. We were through cohort 0154. That was October of 2021, correct?
Yeah,
We both were in the same cohort with 9 other gentlemen.
Yeah.
We'll talk a little bit about Save A Warrior, kind of what it did for us. And
yeah, a bunch of great dudes.
Yeah, Jake and Adam, just you and I talked. And what'd you call Adam?
The guru's guru.
The guru's guru.
When that guru sitting on top of a mountain has a question, who do you think he asks?
Phones Adam Carr.
Yeah.
So Adam was the leader of our cohort. He's a great guy. So Jake and Adam were both at the Phoenix Project Mental Health Symposium I was at about a month or so ago, and just so well spoken. And it's kind of cool to get in a room of just Save Warrior alumni, because the hugs start and the non-alumni start looking at you like, what's going on with this group?
Yeah, they've been doing a little while. They've got it down. They've got it down really good.
Well, since we've been there, the place it's down in Hillsboro, Ohio. We'll talk a little about Save A Warrior. It's open to any veteran and first responders within the state of Ohio currently, I believe. The last I looked, that's how it was. It may not be now, so don't take my word for it. Double check on their website to see.
Yeah, go to saveawarrior.org.
That's
Check it out. But if you can't, as a spouse or a friend or somebody, you think somebody that probably needs this program, you can go look all day long, but that person has to sign themselves up. They can't.
Right. Yeah, they can't go on somebody else's word. When I went through, I remember right before I left, I was talking to Larry Turner, Larry's an awesome guy. He's pretty much the reason I stayed there, and we can go into that maybe in a little bit. But
Larry's.
Towards the end, it's almost like you have that epiphany, like, man, why did I wait so long to feel like this? I know at least 5 or 10 guys that need to be here, so I'm going to go home and make them come. He's like, you can't do that, man. They got to want it.
Yeah. All you can do is point the way.
Yep. Show them and we're kind of living through our own stories about what it did for us.
Yeah.
And other people see that. And if they're suffering, they're like, I want that.
Yeah.
and it's a great resource. And if it's something that you're silently striving for, I suggest, like Craig said, saveawarrior.org. There's all the information on there. You can contact me or any of the Save A Warrior alumni, and they'll be happy to give you some information. But you got to want it. You got to be able to get on there, fill out the application yourself, click that submit button, because no one can do it for you. They're not going to take you if it's done by someone else, because they do a rostering call beforehand where gentlemen like Larry will call you and kind of make sure that the program is a good fit for you.
Yeah, when I talked to Larry on the phone finally, he was looking at, he could see, he's like, well, I see you've filled out the application several times, but not actually hit the submit button. I was like, that's true. Over like a period of like 7 months to a year, I had gone on there, but I never fully went through.
Right.
And then,
I think I did it like once or twice. It's almost like the first time you ever go see a therapist. If you've ever seen a therapist, veterans and first responders have the similar mindset where like, I don't need this. I'm good. I can take care of myself. And the first time I went to actually speak to someone, I'm sitting out in the parking lot in my truck, like, what am I doing? I don't need this.
Yeah.
And I almost left.
Yeah.
I didn't. I went in, and I'm glad I didn't leave. And
true story. Well, I had struggled for a number of years, because I went back and I was like, I don't need counseling. I'm a tough guy, whatever. The tipping point was the day the sitting president handed Afghanistan over to the Taliban without any continuity, any warning, any planning. Just like, all right, we spent 20 years here building up this infrastructure and your economy and all your ministries of everything are in order. Why don't you take it?
Yeah, just up and
along
left.
with billions of dollars of weapons and equipment,
just left,
ammunition, and it was devastating to not just me and the U.S. troops, but I'm watching these planes as they're leaving. The military planes are just packed with more people than they're supposed to have.
Way more.
And it really got to me because dudes were trying to grab on to the outside of the plane, and as the plane took off, they're falling off to their death.
I mean, what does that speak to their current environment where they're willing to risk that just to try and get out of there?
Yeah.
Because they know we were pretty much their only hope.
Yeah.
We were the ones that fended off the Taliban and even gave them the slightest chance at a normal life. Whether it's, democracy or whatever, when you're not under that ruling thumb and you can live a little bit more of a free life than they ever knew. And then all of a sudden it's just up and taken away. First off, a lot of guys lost a lot of friends, a lot of families lost a lot of sons and daughters on that soil. It's almost like a next generation Vietnam. It's just up and out.
Yeah. It's like just one day I was like, you know what? I'm just going to pull out today. And then it was just absolutely heartbreaking, soul breaking. And I didn't know what to do after that. I was like, why? All the things I sacrificed, my friends sacrificed, it's just gone. So
do you think that was kind of the tipping point for you?
That was the tipping point. Within it was like the next day, I think I was on the phone with Larry.
Yeah, I can understand that. That's, a lot of people probably still feel that way.
Yeah, yeah.
And just don't know where to go with that as far as...
if I hadn't been through the programs that I've been through, because I didn't go through just Save A Warrior, I wouldn't be able to sit here and talk about it smiling.
Right.
Because it still...
brings up a lot of that raw
absolute
emotion.
Horrible thing to do still. But I have a different perspective now. And
as I tell you, it's just something that happened.
I think it's important to, keep a little composure so that you can make effective and proper decisions.
Well, and dwelling on your past, a lot of times that brings up a lot of really severely negative emotions, and it's rightfully so. But to be able to recognize, what as they call it, catching yourself.
Yeah.
And just saying, you know what? It's not ever going to change the past.
No.
But I can change the future from here. I don't need to live in that negativity and that anger.
Yeah.
And that depression. And you can just kind of move on from it. And
yeah, that was my big point of contention. And then I don't know if you remember, but in the class, Adam kind of put it in perspective for me. I saw him. He took a minute, saw his wheels spinning, and then he knew exactly what to say.
Well, Adam was Special Forces. He lost some friends over there too. So
sure,
you guys share that same. I'm sure he has a little bit of that. I don't know if I would call it anger. I don't think Adam has an angry bone in his body, but
well, he did go through Save A Warrior. He learned some things.
He's learned to kind of let that go. Yeah. But he probably saw a little bit of himself in you when that anger was boiling up, and you were just, for sure, because you were raging about that, and that's the place to do it. You get it out there.
That's the whole purpose. Amongst
a safe group of men that will just sit there and listen to your story.
Yeah, that was great, man. Save A Warrior that gave me the foothold to get back and start doing things to further improve myself. Because it's not a one and done. You don't go here and you're cured forever. It's a
72-hour program. It's not a magic pill. There's work to be done afterwards, before and after. But the work afterwards, like he said, and one thing they kept saying when we were there, when you get home, that gorilla's still in your closet. Yeah. He didn't go away.
No.
And he's still waiting. He's waiting for you. So all those troubles you left behind, when you leave Save A Warrior, you feel great.
Yeah.
You feel on top of the world. Nothing can bring me down. And they caution you, don't forget when you get home, all that stuff's still waiting on you. Yeah. And more stuff is going to come. But now you're given more tools on how to.
Yeah, you'll get back to whatever normal is for you. But at least now But I took what they gave me, and I was able to go on to other things. I went to Heroic Hearts Project, which is free for veterans. I recommend.
Yeah, let's go ahead and talk about that.
HeroicHeartsProject.org. Yeah. Now it's sort of a controversial treatment because in the U.S., their medicine is actually illegal. It's ayahuasca. It's a psychedelic, but where I went in Peru, the natives have been using that for centuries, and even the shaman I visited were still speaking in the ancient language of Quechua or whatever. I don't know what it was.
So you went there after Save A Warrior, correct?
Yeah.
And how long of a trip was that?
It was about a week because there's a lot of travel involved.
Oh yeah,
and everything. So
what all did that entail? If you could speak a little bit about Heroic Hearts.
Well, I flew to Peru and then flew to another little place, and it's not just in Peru. They have contracts with ayahuasca retreats all around in Mexico and other places. But I flew down there, and there was like 9 other veterans there too. I think there's 9. I'd have to count them. We're still friends. We talk, not as much as Save A Warrior, but they had a great reception. And actually, after when we were talking to the facilitator, his name was Vlad. I think he's from Czechoslovakia or somewhere. Really cool dude. But he was saying we like when the military veterans come because everybody has an instant cohesiveness, like
kind of a bond that forms immediately. Well, we've all kind of been through the same stuff.
Like a normal group that comes down there, they don't immediately hang out with each other and talk and all this stuff. They'll stay in their rooms until like the 4th or 5th day after they've had ayahuasca, and then they come out and start talking.
So they do other retreats for not just veterans. The Heroic Hearts, is that just for veterans, or is that for first responders as well? Or
as far as I know, it's just for veterans.
But I'm sure those retreats do other those facilities do other retreats for other organizations, not just veterans. And
well, it's just most of them are just retreats for people. You sign up, you go out there, and then.
But Heroic Hearts kind of coordinates a group of veterans to go, kind of like a cohort.
Right.
Okay.
Exactly. And they were just saying, like, because we come together the first night and we're out there telling stories and talking and everything, and just get tighter and tighter. Whereas regular people who don't know each other, they show up.
And
they don't start.
Rightfully so.
Yeah. Well, I get it. I probably wouldn't either. But if you tell me you're a military veteran, I promise I can find something to relate to with you.
Well, there's definitely a commonality amongst all the branches, no matter how, the Marines and their crayons, you Army guys that jump out of perfectly good airplanes.
Yeah. Coast Guard's not a real branch.
I didn't say it.
No, that's just the thing. I know. I absolutely respect the Coast Guard.
We tease each other because we love each other. And
Yeah.
that's one thing, my old fire captain used to say. He's prior Navy. If it's us and the Marines in a bar, we'll fight each other. But as soon as someone else comes in, game on, brother. It's on. We're teaming up because, we're brothers.
Don't hurt my Marine brothers.
Yeah. I mean, we got to take them everywhere. So Peru for how many days?
It was about 5 days, 3 nights of ceremony. It was pretty intense. You'll just have to go look at there's no way I can relate
Well, everybody I'm sure has their own separate experience.
I would say, so let's say your phone has a few too many apps and maybe a virus and it's not working right, and you do a factory reset and it's fresh and working perfectly again. That's
kind of like that.
That's what it felt like.
The old Control Alt Delete.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'll put a link to that Heroic Hearts on the show notes for this episode as well. So another thing Craig did, unless you want to keep on going on Heroic Hearts, or
I'll lead into it. So
yeah, go ahead.
After Heroic Hearts, I came home feeling good, and I knew I needed to get a purpose in my life, so I'm not just hanging around and letting all the shit happen again. But I inherently knew inside that I was like, okay, I know this purpose is going to come. I don't know what it is yet, but it'll come. So I faithfully wait.
Just sitting there with openness and just ready to accept whatever comes.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I knew I would know it as soon as it comes. So we have a pretty close group of Rangers from like guys I served with from like 1990, long time ago. So we have like a monthly breakfast now and then, here and there. And these guys have called me up and said, "Hey, we're having a special breakfast. We need you to come." I was like, "All right, I was going to come anyway. What's special about it?" So I smoked a brisket and everything. I don't know why we call it breakfast. It's just because it's early and we drink beer probably.
Brisket goes good with eggs.
Yeah. So we're hanging out, and my bro Guy Phillips. I've known him since 1990. I showed up. He was a Tab D4. Went to Ranger School already, make me do push-ups and all that. We're hanging out. It's like, "Hey, remember Joe Leach?" I was like, "Yeah, I remember Joe Leach." He's like, "Well, it's like me and him are gonna row across the ocean, and we kind of need another guy. Do you want to do it with us?" It's like, "No, that's dumb. That sounds stupid. You're gonna row across the ocean?" So he's like, "Well, we're gonna call you during the week, when there's less beer involved, because I don't need you to make any commitments right
I
now."
just wanted to plant that seed.
Yeah. It's like, okay, sure. But it did. Like a few days later, him and Joe called me on a call, and then he's like, "Yeah, we're kind of serious about asking you about rowing this ocean." And I still was like, I really don't have any desire to do that. But they went into the details, like it's for veterans' mental health and awareness. It's actually a race where many teams get into it and row. And after they went into it, and I thought about it a day or so, and I remembered, I was like,
"There's your purpose."
I needed that purpose. And the light came on, and I was like, "All right, I'm in."
So for reference, it's called the World's Toughest Row.
Yeah.
And it went from La Gomera, Spain to the island of Antigua, correct?
Correct.
That's over 3,000 miles across open ocean.
Yeah.
And how long did that take you guys?
For us, it took us 43 days, 17 hours, and 34 minutes.
Now, I was in the Navy, and we talked last week again. No one knows this because the recording went to shit. I was in the Navy. I served on an aircraft carrier in the middle of the ocean, and we caught some storms where that thing was rocking and rolling. You're on a rowboat. I mean, and that's, when I say rowboat, if you go on World's Toughest Row website and you get to see these things, they're a little bit more advanced than a rowboat, but they're essentially a rowboat.
Yeah.
Maybe what?
It's about
30 feet long?
It's 28 and some change. It's like a surfboard with 2 cabins on each end, more or less.
So World's Toughest Row not only comprises of teams of, were there teams of 5?
Up to 5. Yeah,
Okay.
there was one 5-man.
So
team.
from 1 to 5 persons on these boats.
Mm-hmm.
So some of the teams had 1 person rowing 3,000 miles across open ocean by themselves.
Yeah, it was amazing. Yeah, they have a YouTube channel. You can go on. Our organization is called Fight or Die, OAR, Fight or Die. And there's a lot of videos they put together of us. There was recently, we went to the awards ceremony in London. There's like a final video they put together. So that's pretty cool.
Oh, like a culmination video of all the teams?
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I also know they also do have a Pacific race. I don't know where it starts at, but it ends in Hawaii. They're currently rowing right now.
Yeah, it starts in Monterey.
Because California or Mexico.
California.
So, yeah, they're currently rowing across the Pacific Ocean to Hawaii right now. And it's a team of females this time for that I think is it that organization, or is it related to the Fight or Die team?
Oh, we don't have a team.
Okay.
They're actually the owners of Fight or Die want to dissolve the organization, and they're asking us if we want to take it over. We're considering it. It's just it's a bit of work, and I don't know how to run one of those.
Well, no one does until they do.
Yeah, until you do it.
And fundraising is the key. So, how many teams you started? It was before Christmas, I remember.
Yeah.
And it's really cool because they have an app that you could put on your phone, and all the boats have satellite tracking. So we could watch your progress every day, how fast you were going, what direction you were heading.
Yeah.
And there were days where we could tell you caught weather because it was almost like all the boats just stopped. Some of them kind of went backwards or went different
might
ways.
even spun around in a circle or something. But
so
it's called YB tracking. You can still go on there and retrace the whole race.
It's still there.
Yeah, you can still.
So it's archived. Cool.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's a long time to be in open ocean. So Craig's story of this rowing competition kind of took a turn on day 8.
Yeah. Well,
out of Spain. So they had just got started. They were 8 days into the race, correct?
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you really think about it, what we did was pretty amazing anyway, because, and I'm not like, I'm really cool. Check me out. What I'm saying is,
yes, he is.
What we had to do to get to where we got. Because when they were asking me, we didn't even have a boat.
Yeah, talk on that. So some of these teams are very well funded. They train year round. They're just this is what they do. They train for this race. Does it happen every year?
Yeah.
So they pick these teams. A lot of teams have great funding. They get a brand new boat every year. These teams train year round. You guys didn't do that.
No, when I was asked, we didn't even have a boat. So we had to do some fundraising to buy a boat. And the reason is because the previous team capsized in the middle of the race and lost the boat. It was,
oof.
We were talking about how we chide each other, the other services. Well, this was an all Air Force team.
Well,
so
God bless them.
I don't know if maybe they just thought a yacht was going to come out every morning and change their sheets and make them breakfast. But somehow this boat that a Fight or Die previous team had already rowed across, they rolled it.
They found a way to sink it.
They found a way. Well, it didn't even
Nothing
sink.
is truly unsinkable. Let's be honest. I mean, Titanic.
Well, they didn't even sink it. It just capsized and wouldn't and these boats flipped themselves back over.
And the currents in the open ocean, you may not realize how strong they are, but if you go overboard and that boat gets taken away, God knows where it ended up.
Yeah, I've got some theories about what happened, but it doesn't matter. They're safe. They made it home. I'm glad about that. I'd hate to see anybody get lost at sea like that.
Well, so let's speak on that. So the boat itself has safety wires that run fore and aft. So you are clipped in all the time, right?
Yeah.
One clip or two?
One.
Okay.
So there's jack stays that run along the deck. You're clipped into that so you can move up and down. And then there's 2 safety straps on the sides. And it's just, other than that, it's just open. They sit about this high on the boat.
Okay, so you got the call, hey, we want you to join this team. What did your training consist of?
So a lot of the other teams would spend like a year, 2 years
Right.
training around the place. We barely got our boat about this time last year. And we bought it from a Team Guardian. They're first responders out of New Mexico. Great bunch of dudes. We got the boat from them. They met us halfway in Arkansas and went over a lot of the equipment and everything. It was pretty much packed. I think we gave them like $70,000 for this boat, but I think we got kind of a deal because it was already packed with all the things we needed.
Right. Yeah.
And then we hauled it up to Painesville, Cleveland area, and we rode on the Lake Erie for a while.
Get your feet wet, per se.
Yeah. Oh man, there was one day we didn't check the weather, but there was a small boat advisory. So we was like, let's go rowing. We went out. There was nobody anywhere. I was like, where is everybody? And we're rowing. We're like, damn, we're getting like 4 or 5 knots going this one direction. And then it was time to turn around. Even the Coast Guard slowly drove by looking at us like,
what on earth are these guys doing?
Should we sit here? Because they don't look like they're doing well. And then, because like I said, we're doing 4 or 5 knots on the way out, and on the way back, we rode for 2 hours and didn't move an inch.
Yeah.
But we finally.
But there's no better way to simulate open ocean, though. I mean, when you're out there. So initially, when Craig told us he was doing this, I'm thinking, oh, okay, that sounds pretty cool. He's going to have these safety boats around him. Not the case. It doesn't sound like there was nobody.
There were no safety boats.
So it got to the point where, not to stray too far from the subject, but one of the teams actually had a member die in the middle of the ocean.
The Australian team, one of the dudes had a heart attack, and they sent a boat out pretty quick, but they still had to.
Still took a day or two.
They still had to hang out with that.
See, boat. I just assumed that there were safety boats with you in case something happened, but that wasn't the case. They were coming.
Yeah, no, I don't know if there was somebody trailing because we were so spread out, like the 5-man team.
Right.
They finished in like 30 couple days, and then the last single rower finished in like, I don't know, 70 or 80 days.
Well, yeah, like on the satellite tracking, everybody left, and it was like a shotgun blast. It was like boom, and then they spread out, and you could see like the pack starting to separate. And that one team, was it from Great Britain, just took off. Yeah. And they actually won the race, right?
Yeah, the 5-man team. They were pretty amazing. They had been training for it. They knew what to expect and what to do. But they took.
So you guys went on this trip with a used boat, minimal training.
We had 129 hours training, which was the requirement. The
minimum requirement
to get. Yeah.
But the thing those other teams didn't have was the wherewithal of being U.S. Army Rangers.
Right.
That's one. It's a factor you cannot add into the mix.
There was no fear.
There's no quit. And to speak on that, let's talk about day 8. So, the weather turned, correct?
Day 7, the weather didn't turn that much. I mean, day 7, our plotter kept telling us, like, you got to go south because he's looking at the future weather. He's like, you got to get south so you can catch a current that's going to push you in.
So he's looking at the forecast, trying to plan ahead.
Yeah.
And wanted you to push south because the wind would push you north. He didn't want you guys to be that far off track, correct?
Well, he was just anticipating a current that was coming up, and we needed to come down and catch it. 100 or 2 miles. So when we start pushing south, all the waves are coming from east to west. So we're getting hit on the side all the time when we're trying to go south. That boat laid down. It didn't ever flip or roll, but it came close. I broke an oar on the 7th night on the right side.
Just trying to steer against it?
Well, it was just
into the waves?
Yeah, it was just like it would pin it. It was like, we shouldn't be rowing south. We should just keep going with the waves. But
I believe that's called being in the trough, too. Because when you're rowing in a westerly direction, the waves are kind of giving you a little bit of a push, right?
Yeah.
So when you turn south, you're taking those waves broadside. And anyone who's ever been on the ocean will tell you that's very dangerous. When you get in that trough and you're taking the waves broadside on your port or starboard, that's when bad things happen.
Yeah. So that was kind of the clue was on the 8th night. getting ready to change shifts. A big wave came and slapped me right out the boat. And on my way over the side, I latched onto that top safety strap, and just the inertia and the momentum and the weight just kind of snapped my distal bicep. I had no idea that happened. I just thought I bruised my arm really bad.
You didn't feel a pop or anything, or just
No, it was so dramatic with stuff going on. I had no idea that happened. I just thought it was bruised really bad.
So when did you realize how bad you injured yourself?
We took video and sent it to the race doctor. It says, "Doc, what's going on here?" Because I would reach in there and it felt like a loose guitar string. I was like, I don't know what's going on. I need to tighten need a tune up or something. And so he called me on the phone and he goes, "That is a distal bicep tendon rupture." And he said, "Now if you can keep rowing all you want, if it's not gonna, don't worry about injuring it further." And that didn't sit right with me. So I called my doctor, Vera Gupta, great doctor, and she says, "Don't you dare row on that anymore, because if that other one breaks, there's gonna be a lot of pain. You're gonna be worse off than you are now." So I didn't row anymore. But what I did do to kind of balance it out, because I was a rower, now I'm not rowing, we're down to 3 rowers.
So first off, against medical advice, you were probably advised to come off the boat and go get it fixed, correct?
That is true. They did say, we can have you guys throw out a para anchor, we'll send a yacht and come pick you up, fly and get you fixed, because the doc was telling me there's a very short window to get that fixed, otherwise it's not fixable.
Right. But this is when you throw in that factor of being a U.S. Army Ranger.
Yeah. Well, another motivating point was like the previous team lost the boat and didn't even finish the race. It was like,
You don't want to be the reason.
I cannot let this team down. I mean, they asked me for a reason, so I can't let them like ask me and then be like, "Wish we didn't ask him."
Yeah.
So I wasn't gonna stand down. So
after 8 days, you tore your distal bicep tendon.
Yeah.
You were advised not to row on it. You're in the middle of the ocean. You were told to come off the boat. You told them, "Hell no, I'm not leaving my guys."
Yeah.
That's the factor that you can't replicate that. A lot of teams probably wouldn't think the same way if you're not of that military mindset.
Yeah.
These are my guys. We're a team. So that was day 8. You had almost 40 days left. So what did you do since you couldn't row? What kind of stuff did you do to support the team?
So I took over some extra duties, because we were rowing 2 hours on and 2 hours off. And your 2 hours off was for your sleeping time, but you also had to do personal hygiene. You had to make your food and eat it and all those things. So I took over a lot of responsibility. So I would do all the food. So, I mean, that saved probably an hour a day total. So they would get a little extra sleep, and I just did extra work. I ran the desalinator to make fresh water.
So those are tasks that would usually be, so if you're off the oars, those are tasks that you would be pretty much tasked to do to kind of keep the boat up and running and the crew going. But like you said, when you're doing that, you're losing precious sleep time.
Yeah.
So you became the support person that did all that stuff to pretty much, I mean, that sounds like it was pretty essential to the team. That way, that when they come off the oars, they don't have to sit and prepare their food. Here you go.
Right.
Eat and get some sleep.
Yeah. I don't even ask them ahead of time. I was like, "Here's all the meals we have available. Which one would you prefer today?"
Take your pick.
Yeah. So the cooking of the meals consisted of, we got these, mainly the brand was Peak Nutrition. And it's like freeze dried. So you just pour hot water on it, let it reconstitute for like 10 minutes or so. So we had these 2 big Stanley thermoses, and I had a jet boil.
I love jet boil.
Yeah.
This is a plug for jet boil. I have one in my backpack.
Yeah, pretty great.
Hey, if you want to sponsor the podcast, jet boil, that'd be great.
Get your ass up here.
So you would jet boil the water, and jet boils are great because, it's a little backpack stove. It's got a huge cup. I've got the French press on mine, so I can make coffee.
I had the
but
French
it
press.
boils water like that.
Yeah.
So you'd boil the water, get it in the thermos.
Yeah, because the jet boil only boils like 2 cups at a time.
Right.
So I would sit there until I had both thermoses full.
So that took some time.
Yeah. And then plus, 30 to 50 foot waves. So I've got to time it. I'm always looking over my shoulders, like, can I pour this into the thermos now, or am I going to get hit? So I would do that. And I just always had hot water available. I also had the French press thing. I would make coffee. We had
Nice.
we had a veteran coffee group out of Houston. They donated coffee to us. I gave them a couple of promos. What was it? Indies Coffee. And they even had they gave a promo code. They gave us 10% off of anyone who used the hashtag Bearded Ranger at the time.
Got your own hashtag, your own discount code.
So really great coffee company. Probably throw that in the link too. I honestly think they're better than Black Rifle. Well, the only reason is Black Rifle kind of forgot their roots.
Got a little too big.
Yeah, they got a little big for the britches. Forgot where they came from. And now, I mean, when you see them in Sam's Club and every gas station.
So our podcast is kind of sponsored by another company. It's veteran and first responder owned, Nolan's Poorhouse.
I listened to that podcast. Yeah,
he's an airborne ranger. He jumped out of perfectly good airplanes too. So that's the cool thing is it's the community kind of takes care of each other.
Yeah,
and I think that's great.
Yeah. Great coffee.
So you were the support guy. You had everything ready for them. 40 some plus days later.
Anytime anybody needed anything, like, can you refill my water bottle? Yes. Would you like some electrolytes in that?
And explain why they needed electrolytes.
Well, the desalinator removed everything. So it was basically like distilled water. It was just like straight water.
It takes everything out of it.
Yeah. And if you drink distilled water, you'll essentially wash the nutrients and electrolytes out of your own body. So I would load them up so they wouldn't.
Just take care of the crew.
Yep. Anything they need, like
I'm gonna do a little top off here.
We had all kinds of gear and equipment and sunscreen, and anybody needed anything, they just hollered at me. I would go do it and get it. Because otherwise I wasn't doing much anything else. Stargazing.
Did you ever razz the guys like, hey, can you pick it up? I got something I gotta do.
Yeah, it's like birthday coming up.
Well, step on it. Come on.
So 2 of the guys I had known since 1990. They were in the Ranger Battalion with me. So I had the other guy. I didn't know him. Dave Figgins. He's a cop in Illinois currently. Really great dude. He went to Ranger School and also he was Green Beret. Multiple deployments. And I just took care of those dudes, made sure everybody had everything they needed. One thing, I hate to admit this, but we had a med kit, right? The best combat trauma medical kit you could probably come up with. But what we really needed was a good hiking or backpacking camping kit.
You got to keep it simple. I mean, there's a lot of complex stuff you can put in a first aid kit. Trust me, I know.
I know, because we didn't, like, does anybody have a sucking chest wound, or is anyone bleeding profusely that needs a tourniquet?
We're not treating gunshot wounds out here.
Well, I can do all that. Oh, you have a blister? Sorry, I can't do anything about it.
It's a moleskin.
Yeah, we didn't have any of that stuff. I don't know why we didn't. I mean, infantry, that's like, you use your feet, you get blisters, you fix them.
Yep.
For some reason, we were just like, well, we got a med kit, so whatever. But we did all right. My wife actually had packed some diaper rash cream in my bag. So
the old monkey butt?
Yeah.
I love that stuff.
And I forgot what brand it was. The brand's called Badger.
Okay.
So
we'll plug the Badger.
You're sitting in that seat 12 hours a day rowing. Your ass got blistered and sore.
I bet.
And it was just painful. And my wife saved the day by packing that for us. Otherwise, I don't know what would have happened.
God bless the wives. They think of stuff that we're like, oh yeah, we'll be good, and they're like, probably throw this in here. You'll thank me later. Yeah, I know. It was great. So we followed you. I know a lot of the Save A Warrior cohort. We were kind of texting and back and forth, like, oh, they're halfway. course, after you got injured, we found out you got injured, and we're like, oh, we thought you were done. No, Craig stayed on the boat.
Yeah, I had to stay on that.
Craig kept going. Somebody died. They kept going. It's
Well, I had never been to Antigua, so I had to go there.
yeah. There's easier ways. Cruise ships go there.
Yeah.
So we followed you the whole race, and then YouTube Live did a Fight or Die, or not Fight or Die, but World's Toughest Row. They have a YouTube Live video when the teams come in to Antigua, and we knew the date that you would be coming in because the whole time you guys are transiting the Atlantic, you guys are sending little videos. Like on Christmas Day, you're sitting there in the rowboat wearing Santa hats. Merry Christmas. You guys send these little upload videos via satellite. It almost seemed like that was your job too. After you got injured, is you were kind of like the PR guy of the team. Everybody else is either busy or sleeping. So Craig's face was on a lot of the videos. They got uploaded and sent out by the team. We were able to figure out what day that they were going to be coming into Antigua, and I would have loved to have been there. But YouTube Live did a great job. So they actually went out and met your rowboat. Were you like in a harbor at that point?
Yeah.
So and it was night because I remember it was dark.
Yeah. It was, I forgot, like 9 or something at night. I have never been to Antigua. So we're rolling in and I see all these lights. Like I thought there were skyscrapers at first. I was like, where the heck are we? But they're just mega yachts. I didn't know what a mega yacht was. And the masts have lights up them and they look like multiple story buildings. And
that's how the other half lives.
Yeah. Somebody even pointed out, I was like, there's Jeff Bezos' yacht over there. I was like, holy shit.
You look at that and then you're in a little 28-foot rowboat. Just
yeah. I wanted to put a bumper sticker on it that says, don't laugh, it's paid for.
I'm sure theirs is too. But yeah,
it will never be because I got to keep a crew on there 24/7.
Yeah.
Which they probably pay them in one day more than I make in
it's probably not a bad gig. But I mean, you're at the beck and call of whoever's boat it is. Wherever it's at, they can call you and say, hey, they want the boat in, Key West.
Well,
go.
That's what you signed up for. So
yeah. I mean, if you like being on the water,
I think there's a lot of perks.
Entertaining rich folks.
Yeah.
Sure. So the YouTube Live, you guys showed up in Antigua. You got off the boat. And so I know this from experience of being on the water for a long period of time. So we never touched on the fact of seasickness or chum in the water. I'm sure we talked about some seasickness during that trip.
Yeah. Initially, I didn't really feel, I felt a little dizzy here and there, but I would just come out and stare at the horizon for a minute. But after a few days, that went away. Dave got pretty sick. He would come out of the cabin and immediately start chumming the water.
Should have had a fishing pole. You probably could have caught something with him chumming the water.
I brought a fishing pole. I forgot to bring tackle.
You kind of need that.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, he's chumming the water. Just make sure the hook's down in the pew.
But after he was like that for a few days. And I was like, I kept telling him, like, I would cover his shifts. This is when I was still rowing. It's like, just stay in the cabin, man. I got this. And he's like, I got a row. I was like, I can sacrifice a few days. I can't sacrifice 40 days. Right. So just get better.
But staying in a cabin is the worst thing you can do. Like we talked before, you need to actually look at the horizon. Yeah, you need to be out in the fresh air and look at the horizon because for some reason that makes you feel better.
I mean, we had Dramamine and stuff, but still, I couldn't take Dramamine. I tried when we were on land because everybody thinks you have to take it and build it up your system. It's not really how it works. I think what they're doing is taking it to get used to taking it because it just made me so dizzy and disoriented, and I was having trouble forming sentences. And I went and took a nap that afternoon. I was like, I'm not taking this shit.
It makes you sleepy.
Yeah.
It's almost better just to get the seasickness over. So the first time I was out to sea on the carrier, we were off the coast of San Francisco, and you're thinking, oh, it's an aircraft carrier. It doesn't rock. We were pretty much walking on the walls. I was green. I didn't throw up, but I just felt like shit.
Yeah.
But after a couple of days, and they told me, they're like, hey, as long as they're not flying, go up on the flight deck and just kind of look at the horizon, and you'll feel, and you do. I don't know if it's because your eyes can kind of communicate with your balance system, like, okay, this is why I feel like I'm moving, because I am. But when you're underneath or you're in the cabin, you don't see that movement, and your body's like, oh shit.
Yeah, it's a peculiar feeling. But I mean, I had some ginger chews and stuff I took, but that's really all I needed. The other guys seemed all right. They were a little sick, but they were taking Dramamine actively. And as soon as like the third day passed, Dave was right as rain.
Yep.
And
it's almost like a switch flips. And the thing is, if you go out on the ocean now, you're fine. Mm-hmm. You get that seasickness, it seems like the very first time. And then your body's like, oh, okay, I know what this is. Because I can, go out on the ocean on a fishing charter. I'm good. It doesn't bother me.
Yeah, but, probably be all right on a fishing charter. It was just being in that cabin.
Yeah. So there's another fun phenomenon that happens, and we got to see this on YouTube Live when you guys pulled into Antigua.
Yeah.
So you pull in to the dock, you get off, you're being interviewed, the team's there, your families are there, which is really cool. But a lot of you are just kind of, you have this little rock.
Yeah, it's kind of like you'd spend all night in the pub.
Oh yeah.
Without the feel good.
So in Save A Warrior, they teach you something called warrior meditation. And I always used to think meditation was the dumbest thing ever. I could never quiet my mind enough I have the worst ADHD where I would try it and I would hear a noise and oh, what's going on? And I'm done. I can't get back into it. So warrior meditation kind of teaches you that, okay, this is what we have to do. They teach you how to meditate. It's a very basic meditation. It's a 20-minute meditation. But what it does is you can literally, over those 20 minutes, you do it once, twice a day. Those cortisol levels that you have built up in your body from those years of just being on fight or flight mode, it just kind of starts to dissipate. And I could see it. So I used to have an Apple Watch. And when I started to meditate, I would kind of make note of it and just watch your heart rate drop because you get into that Zen. And so meditation, there's something to it.
It is. It's been studied by science and everything. A very interesting thing is when you incorporate the breathing, it actually has a greater effect on your entire body than just the meditation. It kind of supercharges it. And just one, if I run you through one breathing session, you'll immediately notice the effects and the difference you feel.
So Soma Breath, it's called?
Yeah, that's the brand name, Soma.
Okay. So when I was on the medic and we would run on somebody having anxiety, I would try and teach them the box breathing method, which is you could do it no matter how many seconds, 4 seconds, let's say. 4-second inhale, hold it for 4 seconds. 4-second exhale, hold it for 4 seconds, and keep doing that. And it's a pretty quick fix for anxiety. Mm-hmm. But so Soma, you're going to Denver, you said, towards the end of this month, correct?
Yeah.
And that's to become a certified instructor?
Yep. My intention is to be able to bring it to veterans who want it, need it, but you have to want it.
So it sounds like what you're saying is you're going to come back on this podcast later on and kind of give a demonstration or maybe a quick class on any listener who may need it. Or
yes,
we can send them your way.
We're going to do both.
Okay. We're all about helping others here.
Yeah. And I will never charge a veteran to teach them this technique, but I'll probably set up classes for regular civilian folk, charge them money so I can keep the lights on.
You got to keep the lights on, man.
And keep teaching veterans. But I imagine I can get in with the VA or Wounded Warrior Project or somebody. They're always wanting.
Maybe Save A Warrior.
Absolutely Save A Warrior. I would like to take it to Save A Warrior and then have them send some of their people to Soma and get certified. And then they can just teach at Save A Warrior.
Right.
It's very effective. It actually, like I said, it kind of supercharges the meditation we learn from, which is really great meditation.
Yeah, it's nothing to discount warrior meditation. I mean, it's done wonders for me.
Yeah. If you only did that, it'd be fine.
Granted, I don't do it as much as I should now because I have those days where, you just get that, you're like, damn it, I'm in just fight or flight. And if you sit down for 20 minutes, pop in some earbuds.
Yeah.
Disconnect. You just come out feeling so much better.
Yeah. There's, this like really, like I said, it enhances, like supercharges it, because you have to understand the effects of the three gases in the body. There's oxygen, there's carbon dioxide, and you also create nitrous oxide when you breathe through your nose. So you're incorporating all three of those things, and it has a physical effect on your body. You can really just like...
Well, you can jack up the pH of your body just by your breathing. I know that from being a medic, because we have this waveform capnography. It measures the CO2 that you breathe out.
Yeah, it totally alkalizes your body.
Oh, yeah.
When I first learned about breathing techniques was through this Dutch dude named Wim Hof. They call him the Iceman. He was doing pretty amazing things. They even had scientists came and they injected him with E. coli to see what would happen. It didn't affect him in the least. And like their other subjects, like within an hour, had symptoms and this and that. So he was able to alkalize his blood where it didn't even bother him.
Just fought off the virus?
Yeah, absolutely.
Crazy.
He's done things like...
You willing to try that?
I rode across the ocean.
We'll go to an all-inclusive resort in Mexico and feed you some questionable pork, and then you can try it.
Just give it all to me. Give me some pork, some ayahuasca.
Well, maybe while we're down there. I have to retire first. So.
Yeah, some bourbon.
Full disclosure, I have to retire before I can do any of that stuff.
Wink. I mean, yeah.
I'm not going to chance it.
Nah, why would you? You're too close to... Too close.
Getting there, man. Getting there.
Your golden ticket.
About 10 years or less. That's what I'm looking at.
Yeah, just hold on to that, man.
Yeah. On another note, I know you were talking about, VA disability. I finally got in touch with someone to look into getting my VA rating. It's taken way too long.
It does. I always tell everybody to jump on as soon as possible because the process is so long. I had a 7-year appeal when I first started the process.
Don't tell me that, man. Come on.
What I'm telling you this for is like stop waiting and it's faster now.
I hope so.
It's a little more streamlined, so it might not be 7 years, probably like 2 years.
Well, again, a lot of people I served with went through the process. Another good friend of mine, Shannon, she was one of the very first females to work on a aircraft carrier flight deck. Mm-hmm. And she is as tough as nails, and she will drink any guy I know under the table. And
I don't know. She
was the president of the VFW down in Cincinnati for a while, and she would grill me all the time. You need to get on. And I just put it off.
Yeah.
Don't put it off. Again, I've just started the process, but if you're a veteran and you've got a chance to get a rating, it's all in your medical record anyway. If you need references of someone that can help you out, reach out to me. I know someone that can help you out. She's actually helping me. She's out of Illinois.
Yeah, there's a lot of organizations that are willing to help you fill out your paperwork and properly. And that's the thing is like the VA is a government entity, and if you don't speak their language, they don't hear you. It's like, let's say you go to court to fight a traffic ticket. If you just say, I was having a bad day and this and that, the judge will not hear you. But if you say, here's case law, here's what other cases have done, is the officer present, is this and that, and then you start speaking their language, and then they'll listen to you.
Right.
So same with the VA. You got to start speaking their language.
There you go, veterans. Don't be afraid to reach out and get your VA rating. Again, let me know, reach out to me, contact me at my email. Again, I'll put that in the show links if you need someone to help you get that process started, because I've been out way too long and missed out on
not only that,
much.
but so I didn't apply initially when I got out of the Army because it's like
I bet most people probably don't.
No, it's like I don't need a handout. I'm a young man. Right. I can take care of myself. Well, I want you to consider this. Our government is just throwing our money out the window. So I feel like you will do something better with it because I take care of my family with it. I take care of my property. I do beneficial things with it. I don't just like.
So it's a funny story how I came about to finally do it. So about a month ago, my wife and I were in Florida on a trip. The AC took a shit in our house. My son called me. He's like, "Hey, house is getting hot." Kid's never lived without air conditioning a day in his life. So I came home. I thought it'd be a simple fix, a capacitor. I can do that. It wasn't. We had a leak in the system. Our system's 20 years old. So I started getting quotes on getting it replaced. Well, one of the companies we had come out, we were outside looking at the outside unit, and I happened to look at his car, and he had a veteran license plate, Navy veteran. So I was like, "Oh, hey, you were Navy?" I was like, "Yeah." I was like, "So was I." So we got to talking, and he was like, "What's your rating?" I was like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "You didn't get your VA rating?" I was like, "Nah, man, it's not my thing. I put it off." He's like, "Do you have any injuries or any problems?" I was like, "Oh, yeah." He's like, "Dude, you got to get that done." I was like, "I don't know." And he gave me the lady that helped him. He actually emailed her, copied me in, and got the ball rolling for me. And this was a sales. He didn't even have to do this. He was a fellow veteran that did this just because that's kind of what we do for one another.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden now, I've got the paperwork signed, the ball's rolling over 20 years later. And, I should have done it sooner. Yes, Missy, you're right. My wife, we've talked about this before, and she's kind of urged me to do it. And I'm just kind of like, kick the can down the road. I'm an able-bodied. I've got a job. I don't need that. And the way he described it to me, that made me kind of like, holy shit, was, the VA has one of the biggest budgets of the federal government. If they pay every veteran that is due their due benefits, they would still be one of the top funded as far as budget-wise.
Still be less than we sent to Ukraine.
That's a topic for another podcast, brother.
Well, just as an example.
But that opened my eyes. I'm like, you know what? Maybe he's right. We all serve our country. Mm-hmm. We don't ask for these things to happen, but sometimes they do. Get yourself taken care of.
Yeah.
And take care of those that you love.
Yeah. It's not a handout. It's one of the benefits of the job. It's like you will be taken care of if you're acting on our behalf and you get jacked up.
Yeah.
So it's not taking charity or anything. It's just taking care of yourself.
You wrote a blank check to the federal government for everything up to and including your life when you signed up to join to defend this country.
Yeah.
They need to take care of you.
Yeah.
Bottom line.
Yeah. So don't feel bad. Feel proud.
Do it, man. Do it.
Especially if you're suffering PTSD or something, you need to do something because
right.
Stand up and take your life back. It's yours. Take it back. Don't be a victim.
Well, and along that line, if you are suffering from that PTS, dude, Save A Warrior they specialize in that shit, man.
Yeah,
they can help you. You're not alone. You will be in the cohort with fellow veterans. You'll
find out this huge, incredible community. Like, I thought I was the only one for a long time. I was like, no. Welcome to the family.
That's how we all felt.
Welcome to your tribe.
Dude, the day we got there, we're standing there and we're all in our little circles. Like,
yeah.
We're not talking. We're just kind of.
Yeah.
And by the end of it, so our cohort, we had 11 guys. 9 of the 11, was it 9 of the 11, live here in Central Ohio. And we keep in contact almost daily. There's always a text. We have a text thread and someone's always reaching out. Hey, let's get together. We need to do another breakfast.
Yeah.
One thing I want to do for one of these podcasts is have all the guys from our cohort here. Yeah. The only problem is I only have 2 mics. So we're going to have to kind of share the love. But I think it would be really good to get us all together and sit and tell our stories. Not those stories.
Right.
But just
recovery stories.
Yeah. How we've recovered and what it's done for us.
Yeah.
And what it can do for you if you feel that you need it. Don't hesitate. Don't stop freaking waiting. What's the one saying? I wrote this down and it was one of the best things I've ever heard you say. It was on one of your videos when you were on the boat.
I know what you're talking about.
So go ahead and say it.
No one's coming back for us but us.
That's not it.
No. All right.
If you're thinking about hurting yourself.
Oh, yeah. wait till tomorrow. Or if you're thinking about helping yourself, get busy right now.
Right. That saying just resonated with me. Like, God damn, man. Do it.
Yep.
Reach out for help. Contact us, email us. We'll get you some references. We're here for you.
I'm glad people heard my message.
And we'll put it out here Monday. Hopefully this time we got audio, my friend.
Yeah. Well, if not, they can just look at us.
Well, yeah. We're two ugly little fellas sitting here drinking some. This episode's been brought to you unofficially by Buffalo Trace Bourbon. Just been sitting here drinking a little and talking.
I only had 2.
Well, me too. Craig, I appreciate your time, buddy. We're over an hour again.
Thanks for having me, man. I love to help people, veterans especially.
Me too. That's kind of why that was one of my sole purposes for doing this. I listen to a lot of podcasts, and one of the ones I really listen to is his name's Travis House. He's a Marine vet. He was a police officer, a firefighter. He was a firefighter that was involved in the Charleston Sofa Superstore fire. If you're a fireman, I know you know about it. If not, I suggest you look it up. But we lost 9 firefighters in that fire, one of whom was his best friend. And he found his best friend in that charred rubble. And he suffered for years. He found a way out of that darkness. He is now a public speaker. I got to listen. I got to meet him. I got a signed book from him. He's a great guy. But I started listening to his podcast, and I'm like, man, he doesn't have guests on. He usually just sits behind a mic and just talks for about an hour, maybe 45 minutes an episode. And I'm like, man, I could do that.
It's amazing how you help yourself by helping others. And I always, it's kind of a silly joke. Like, Adam Carr is very selfish because the more he helps others, the better he gets.
Right.
So it's like, I know I'm helping you, but I'm doing this for me.
I'm getting a lot out of it,
but you're getting
too.
benefit too. So it's like, and that's what I want to do. I want to.
And I will say, so when I came back from Save A Warrior, I didn't pressure anyone to go, but I talked to a couple guys. I know of at least 2 or 3 guys, 2 or 3 firemen that I know that they asked me because I could see they were on the thing about Save A Warrior is when you come back, it's like the Matrix. You can see others suffering.
Yeah.
Silently. You can look at them like, I know that look. And a couple of them would ask me, hey, so what's with Save A Warrior? And I'm like, well, I'll tell you my story, but if you think it could help you, all I can do is point you to their website. You have to want this. I can't.
Oh, that was one thing we talked about before was like, I was at a restaurant and we were waiting for a table and a certain song came over the intercom.
Yeah.
And a dude made a comment about the song and I turned to him. I said, you went to Save A Warrior, didn't you? And he said, yeah. How'd you know? I says, that fucking song.
Yeah. We're not going to tell you the song. You have to go to find out. Another cool story you have, which again, we'll leave names out, was the tipping point or the pushing point that got you to go to Save A Warrior was you had contracted COVID.
Yeah, I got COVID.
And you were in the hospital.
I got double pneumonia. I was at the hospital and they were telling me I had to keep my mask on. I was like, I can't breathe with it on. I was like, keep it on. So I was like, okay, watch this. And I passed out and convulsed. And then
we're laughing like that's funny.
They took my mask off when I came back around. And my wife's like, oh my God, are you okay? And I was like, yeah, I feel wonderful. I just saw a bunch of dead people. And then was he a nurse or
he's a medic.
He's a medic.
We're not going to say the hospital. We're not going to say anything, but
pretty cool dude. And he's asking my wife, is that PTSD? He's like, yeah. He's like, you know about Save A Warrior? And then in my head, I was like, I had already heard about this like several times. I think this is my push.
This is your sign.
Yeah.
Here's your sign. Yep. So that kind of pushed you towards Save A Warrior. The funny thing is, Craig's telling me this. And then, so I know the hospital and I know the medics in the hospital. So this guy was a medic in this hospital. So I had gone to this hospital with a patient and I had found this guy because I knew he was a Save A Warrior alum. And I'm like, hey, pal, do you remember there was an Army vet in here suffering from COVID? and he was having breathing issues, and you were talking to his wife about Save A Warrior. He's like, oh, yeah. I said, he was in my cohort. We just graduated. And he gave me the biggest hug with tears in his eyes. And that was a cool story. It came full circle. Just that. And that's how we help others, is we tell our story. Like, hey, or share what it did for us.
Yeah.
And hoping that others are open to have that done for them. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. It's all in there. It's like you help yourself by helping others.
Right.
That's just the way it is.
So since I've been back, like I said, I don't, you can't force someone to go, but I would talk to others about, I pull no punches. If you want to know, I'm going to tell you exactly where I was in my life, the lowest I've ever been in my life. It got to the point where I was so low that I told my wife, who I love dearly, that I think she would be better if she took the kids and left.
I've said dumb shit like that.
And that was if she did that, that was going to be my, okay, here's your chance. This is what you want.
Yeah.
But she wouldn't do it. She was like, nope, I'm not leaving you, you dumbass. You need to get some help. And she's the one that actually kicked me in the ass that night and made me go to work like, hey, I think I need to kind of throttle back a bit, because I was going balls to the wall from the time I became a medic, because I worked in a very pro EMS firehouse, and the lieutenant there was, this is what we do. The majority of the time he would point at the ambulance, and that we called a medic here in Columbus. And he would say, the majority of your career, you will impact more lives on that vehicle than you will any of these fire trucks. And I'm thinking, I'm a new fireman. I want to fight fire.
Yeah.
That shit don't happen. There are fires. I'm not going to lie. There are fires, and some of them are pretty bad. But the majority of what most fire departments do is EMS related, if you don't know that. And the majority of EMS we're healthcare workers. We are the doctors for the people that don't have doctors. They call us for everything. And the shit just wears on you over years and years, and it just piles up. And then you see the traumas and this, that, and the other. And I was to that point where I just told Missy, like, take the kids and leave, and she wouldn't. So she actually kicked my ass into gear. I actually went and talked to a therapist. I talked to someone who went to Save A Warrior. Next thing I know, I went there, met you, and here we sit.
Here we are.
We are over an hour and 15 minutes into a podcast, drinking a couple bourbons, talking about how Save A Warrior helped us and everything that you've done since then and continue to do. And we're just going to keep on trucking.
Yeah, I got to give Save A Warrior credit where credit is due.
Oh, most definitely. But I don't want to keep beating a dead horse, so I've got a little bit left. I'll give you a little bit of a toast here.
All right.
Cheers, brother. Hey, thanks for coming again.
Hey, anytime, man.
This time we got audio, so enjoy it, folks.
I'll come back and do it again. If you
Well,
I will be
have the
back.
bourbon.
We'll talk about something.
We'll talk about Soma. All right, everybody. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.
Slint ya.
Boo! Thanks for tuning in to today's episode. If you enjoy what you heard, be sure to drop us a follow. We'll try to release a new episode every other week. If you feel so inclined, take a moment and give us a review. Your support only serves to make this podcast better. And if you know of any first responder, military veteran, or family member who you think would be a great guest for us, drop us a line. Our email address is firehousetabletalks@gmail.com. Be safe, look out for one another, and we'll see you around the table next time.
Cause after time around the firehouse kitchen table, we can go home to the ones we love.